The last aspect of the basing system is to go through the inventory or controlling mechanisms we use to keep the units individually separated and be able to make a quick identification of who belongs to whom, strength, and things of that nature. Now it's basically done in two ways. One, some nomenclature at the back edge of the base, and this is an optional thing. It's not common to all the players of our gaming group. But normally it's basically, it could be like a number or a set of Roman numbers. So for instance, if it was the 42nd Line Infantry of the French Army, I might put the number 42 at the back edge of the base, as you can see right here. It could be in Roman numbers or Arabic script, whatever. If it's an actual unit that's named like Alexander's Grenadiers, it might just be AG or AL or AX or some coding that would make it distinct, and so you don't have a replication in the same army. If it's regards to something like sappers or pioneers, it might just be something like a simple S or a P, for instance. Or if you're dealing with Syrian spear militia from our army, it might just be something like a simple SY, for instance. It's up to the player's whim, because it's just an identifying mark or some coding of some form. With that being said, the other thing which I put on the back of my bases is the hierarchy of the battalion or the unit in the actual regiment, or so we say. In the French army, it was common where you might have 3, 4, maybe even 5 or 6 battalions in the same regiment. So you would have theoretically a lot of 42s, shall we say, if the 42nd Line Regiment had 4 battalions on the field. So for example, what I've done here, pan over, is this is the 42nd Line Regiment. This is the 1st Battalion, 2nd Battalion, 3rd Battalion, and 4th Battalion. Now, the difference between this grenadier and this grenadier is basically none. But if you look at the back of the bases, you'll see there's little color codes at the corners of the right rear corner of each base. This 1st Battalion has got a little green hue to it. And all the figures of this battalion have the green in the right corner of each individual base. The 2nd Battalion has a blue or dark blue. Again, it's on every single base of the 2nd Battalion. The 3rd Battalion has got a yellowish code, which represents the 3rd Battalion, again on every single figure of the 3rd Battalion. The 4th Battalion has got a purple type code. Again, we're showing the 4th Battalion all the way across. If there was actually a 5th Battalion, which in some cases they do have, I use an orange marker to indicate that. Once you get up to the 6th or the 7th or the 8th or whatever you want to call it, I recycle the colors again. So the 6th would start with the green, the 7th would start with the blue, the 8th would start with the yellow, the 9th would start with the purple, and the 10th would be again the orange. The key thing is here is visually it's quick for me to make a determination that this is the 1st Battalion, this is the 3rd Battalion. And on the field I would see the yellows and the greens and the blues and the purples and the oranges, and that makes it a little bit easier to mix them up. If you have a unit that's a single battalion and all it had was a single battalion, very common to like the English army, then I just put a green. So in theory, in the English army, there's going to be a whole pile of greens because there's a lot of 1st battalions and only battalions for the regiments. But if you had the 2nd Battalion of the 14th Foot, then the 2nd Battalion of the 14th Foot would have a blue coating on the back of it. Not to boot, you would have the 14th as a number or the things of that nature too, to identify them. There's a couple other marks which are done, and they are on the left side of the back of the base. And there's basically 3 colors which are utilized. Number 1 is red. And the red indicates that it's an elite company or elite figure, typically like a voltigeur and a grenadier in a French battalion, or the light company / grenadiers of an English battalion. If you look at the back, you see the little red marker right there. And that just makes it easier for the player to distinguish where is that voltigeur figure in that battalion. You can easily pull it out. Because in some cases, that little short green plume will look very similar to the Centric Company's green plume, and you just wouldn't see it that easily. So again, it's a visual aid. Regiments which are entirely composed of grenadiers, I do not put the red marker behind, because the whole grenadier regiment is one and the same, and it's not an elite figure in the actual unit. Another one which is common is like the sappers or elite specialist units, and we use the color pink to denote that. And that means they have a specialist capability. And it could be anything, but anything that's above and beyond the normal infantryman's typical training or abilities. So sappers, for instance, can dig, and they're armed with shovels and things of that nature. They have the pink because they have that capability, where the ordinary line infantryman typically won't do that on the battlefield. And last but least is the third color, which is white. White means the figure is armed with a weapon that's other than a musket. He does not have a musket in his hands. It could be a pistol, or if he's only armed with pistols. It could be a rifle, either Germanic or English style rifle or American long rifle. Or it could be something he's just armed with swords. Or it could be armed with spears or things of that nature. Or last but least, he could be just unarmed, period. It's basically a representation that the figure has got a weaponry system other than an ordinary common musket. And it can be entire units showing this. For instance, the Syrian spear, it's all they're armed with, a spear. So all the figures in the back have got the white in the left-hand rear corner. It could be a rifle battalion, for instance here. All these figures are armed with rifles, so they've all got the white dot. But if it's something like a Tyrolean battalion, where 1/3 of the figures had the rifles, and the other 2/3 had ordinary muskets, then those individual two figures would have the white dot to distinguish them. So if the player wanted to take them out and individually use those figures and shoot at, say, for instance, an artillery battery, classical target, then he would fire just those two figures, and he knows which two figures in the battalion are representative with the rifles because they are the ones with the white dots. There's one last thing that's covered on the back of the basing, and that is when you have large cavalry regiments. I think I've denoted this already earlier, where if you've got 8 figures or more, you're allowed to split a cavalry unit into 2 equal parts. For instance, we have this large Russian Hussar. And to make it easier for the players to figure out which group of figures belongs to which half, when obviously all the figures are painted the same, is what we commonly do is we paint a little blue dot on the back half of half the regiments. So if the player elected to split the unit, he would then take all the blue dots together, put them as one, and all the non-painted cavalry figures, and leave it as the first one. Now you've probably already noted that cavalry has no markings on the back of it. That is correct. The only thing that they may have would be the specialist ability, or if they're armed with rifles, like the American Kentucky mounted rifles or something, they would have the white dot on the left rear corner. Or if they're armed with anything other than a sword, lance, or anything uncommon thing, i.e. they're unarmed basically, they would have a white dot. I don't think I have any of those painted, but in theory it could be possible. With that all being said, that concludes the basing segment here. If you have any other questions, you can always email me or give me a call. Thank you very much.